Hello, this is Bill Baldwin of Boulevard Realty with an update on flood maps. Please be aware that the Harris County flood maps are about to change. In fact, the way flood maps will be determined is totally new and revolutionary. Make yourself aware of the process and the timeline at Map Next. Map Next stands for Harris County Modeling, Assessment, and Awareness Project, the first of its kind in the nation. It's the next generation of flood mapping using new methodologies, new technology, and new data. The new maps will be released in early 2025, and thousands of homes in Harris County are expected to be added to both the 100 and 500-year floodplains. Likewise, many homes may no longer be in the 100 or 500-year floodplains. After the announcement, there will be a period of 6 to 9 months of education and input. The adoption is not likely until late 2025 at the earliest. Please keep up to date and refer to Map Next on the Harris County Flood Control website.
HRTV has expanded and we're now offering video services at 4 locations. Our Fort Bend branch located at 6608 Greatwood Parkway in Sugar Land. Our Montgomery County branch located at 25700 I-45 North in Spring. Our Bay Area branch located at 17225 El Camino Real in Bay Area. And our original location at HAR Central located at 3693 Southwest Freeway in Houston. All 4 locations offer all the same high quality video production that you have always experienced here at our central location. Contact us today to get your video appointment scheduled at any one of our 4 locations.
As realtors, we help our clients with all sorts of matters, including how to find available resources that may assist with the down payment. We are proud to announce that Down Payment Resource is now available on HAR.com. This will allow consumers to find out if they meet the criteria for any of the 70 different assistance programs available in the greater Houston region. Some programs are income-based, but many allow higher incomes than you may think. There are also programs specific for people in certain professions, such as police officers, firefighters, teachers, healthcare workers, and others. About 89% of all listings for sale in Houston qualify for some sort of down payment. To find out more, you may visit www.har.com/down payment and work with your realtor to make sure you have everything you need to be able to purchase the home of your dreams.
Good morning and welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Director of Social Media for HAR. And this morning we're covering a different topic than we usually do, but it is oh so important, especially now in times of change and times of high stress. We can all deal with different aspects of our mental health. And here today to discuss that with us is Brian Kim, who is actually an HAR member and a mental health counselor. Welcome to the program, Brian.
Thanks so much for having me, Christina. I know this is a very important topic, I think, for a lot of folks, and I'm glad mental health, that topic has been a little less stigmatized these days, and people can talk more openly about it. So thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're very busy, as we've been discussing, but this is really great that you could take some time to talk to us because mental health that can affect us at any time, but with so many changes going on in the world, elections, there's just so many things that, and then not to mention everything changing in the real estate industry over the last couple of months, it can be a lot. So we're really pleased you can join us today. Before we get into some of the questions I have for you though, Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself, just who you are and what you do.
Sure. I am actually, I was a licensed counselor in the state of Colorado for 5 years. I actually moved to Houston area late 2022. So it's been almost 2 years and recently got licensed here. But I have my own private practice that I work with clients, mostly in the state of Colorado. But I've also opened my practice to people beyond the state into the nation. And I'm a therapeutic coach. So work with people in that capacity. Love what
Excellent. I do. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So as you mentioned, mental health has become a little less stigmatized. It seems that maybe during 2020, when we're all dealing with the same pandemic and all of the major events that were taking place at that time, it seemed like around that time it became less stigmatized because so many people were going through the same things. Based on what you've seen though, taking into consideration everything that's happened over the last couple of years, how has that generally affected just people's mental health and well-being?
Sure, that's a great question. I think especially around that time where a lot of people were affected with their job, with uncertainty, with getting COVID, loss of family members, things of that nature. Yeah, it was a tough time for a lot of folks. And mm-hmm. I think also being kind of locked in our homes, we were less able to be more balanced, to be outside and things of that nature. So maybe a lot of us got caught in with our devices or staying inside, being isolated. And I know in the mental health world, isolation is the last place you want to be. We're social creatures. We need connection. We need to be able to articulate and express our feelings. Because what I've noticed, at least in my work and also my personal experience, when I keep things kind of locked in, unarticulated, inside, repressed, maybe things kind of start to bubble to the surface. So a lot of that maybe emotions that we're not dealing with or not processing, they can impact our nervous systems and we can't show up the way that we know we can or we like to. So I think it's super important to look inside. I like to say, look under the hood, so to speak, and see what's going on inside and keeping that your inner space, as clear as possible so that we can show up as our best selves for, not only ourselves, but our loved ones and for our clients and people in our sphere. So I don't know if I answered your question there, but
you did. And you actually kind of led me into my next question for you. I feel like I know I'm guilty of this and I see so many others that I think are doing something similar. A lot of times when you ask someone, how are you doing? Their response is, I'm fine. And I'm curious, why is that? Are we don't want to burden somebody, but also how important is it to open up to someone that you do trust and express those feelings?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when people say kind of, I'm fine, and maybe you're getting the impression that that's just kind of, what they want to say in that moment. Yeah. Why do we do that? Well, I think it depends on each person. We're all going through different things in our lives, and maybe we've had different situations come up where we're kind of dealing with something, or we're not ready to go in and look what's in our hearts, maybe, we can say. So maybe we want to protect ourselves. One of the reasons people just say kind of, I'm fine, is they don't want to, burden others with what's going on in their lives. Or maybe they're not ready to look in at what's going on. Sometimes what's going on in our lives is painful, right? And when we acknowledge that, maybe we're not ready because we don't want to feel that pain quite yet. So there's a lot of different reasons, but we're social creatures and we have social masks that we put on, right? We're not the same to our husband as we are to our friends or as we are to our clients or business partners, things of that nature. And, different masks require different ways to work with different people. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes I think when we say I'm fine, it just depends. And I think also, when we notice other people saying I'm fine, and maybe in your experience, Christina, you can see some people when they say that they're not actually fine, mm-hmm. right? And we wonder what's going on there. But, I think it's super important to express your feelings for that reason. if not to every single person in your life, at least to someone you can trust. Because, as I said before, when we keep things in our I guess in our hearts, where we don't acknowledge what's going on, maybe it's something that it has been challenging for us to kind of deal with, that can build up in our nervous systems, and that can remain repressed and unconscious, and comes out in ways that affect how we show up each and every day. So I think that's why it's important.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. I see a lot of comments already coming through. This is a great topic. Thank you for this. I need this. We are all unique individuals, someone said. So absolutely. If you have questions that you would like to ask Brian, just type those into the comments and we'll get to as many of those as we can. So another question for you, and this is kind of what we built this topic around and somewhat marketed it as. Generally, what do you recommend to patients that are undergoing a heightened amount of stress or anxiety? Like I said, a lot going on in the world. A lot of us internalize things like that. So when people are dealing with heightened amounts of stress, not the normal everyday stuff, or anxiety, what do you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we all go through it, right? Our lives are unpredictable. Anything can happen. So we want to be ready in those moments. I would say, firstly, to start taking care of yourself each and every day. Like, self-care is super important. When we take the time to be with ourselves, whether that's, easy going for a walk, or hydrating, going for a jog, get some oxygen in your lungs, get oxygen to the brain, get the blood pumping, the blood flowing. These are ways we can change our states, right? And when we're in a particular heightened state, fight or flight, it's almost like a survival response. And when our nervous systems are activated like that, it's challenging for us to, deal with that situation in the way that we'd like to. So, self-care is super important, and we can go into that a little bit more in detail later. Getting a therapist, talking about these things, because I think when the work of therapy, in my humble opinion, is kind of an inquiry into yourself. You're developing self-awareness, learning things about yourself you didn't know were there. Because when you kind of have somebody you can talk to about these things, you deepen your understanding of who you are and why you do the things you do, why you think the way you do, why you react to certain things. Like, there are a lot of times in the course of a day, perhaps, and I'm like activated, right? I get angry for no reason. And then after I take a second to reflect, like, why did I do that? What's this about? And when we explore those things and you get a better understanding of yourself, you're more able to handle heightened situations, as you call them, and stressors like that. So I would do that. Journaling is huge. I always, encourage my clients to journal for self-reflection, to articulate, put to words what's going on inside and your feelings. And also, when you journal for an extended period of time, you can kind of track throughout a long period of time, like how you've been and what's been going on. If you're changing, if you're trending in a positive direction, or maybe you're spiraling into a direction you don't want to go. Those are also the benefits of journaling. Calling a friend, right? Talking it out, talking it through. Someone you trust. These are all important things. So I would include that.
Yeah, excellent advice. And actually, we got a comment from Lydia. Amazing advice. Juana said, yes, physical focus connects with our mind. Great reminder. So yes, excellent suggestions there from you. Thank you so much. Sure. It's interesting. I was planning to ask you this question, and we just had a comment that came in from Erica that really kind of guides this question. She said, I struggle with boundaries around work. It seems like it's hard to disconnect in the real estate world, and sometimes that affects me. And, that's one question that I really did want to discuss with you, because our members serve as counselors to our clients. So what are some ways as realtors that they can best assist their clients, but also take care of themselves?
Yeah. Well, I mean, boundaries is absolutely vital, I think, in our industry to survive. Otherwise, we can't turn it off. Things can get just out of control. We feel overwhelmed. I think boundaries are important because, when you make a clear kind of barrier or wall between yourself and your clients, you have a space that's protected where you can always take care of yourself. If you're always available to other people and you stop taking care of yourself, we're at the risk of burnout. And I've had moments in my career where I've experienced a little bit of burnout, where I just can't be present. I can't show up for my day because I haven't been taking care of myself. And so clearly demarcating to our clients, communicating them like, hey, listen, on an X given day, I'm available from this time to this time. And they know when you're available, and that you ask them to respect that time. And that also we make time for ourselves, whether that's an hour in the morning or in the evening. I like to, have morning and evening routines. They're kind of like two checkpoints in the day that allow me to check in on how I'm doing, and at the end reflect on how I'm doing. And these kind of checkpoints ground me and keep me kind of centered, and just, there's a lot going on, but let me take a breath. Let me come to back to the moment here and reset. So I think that's super important. I think, another thing that I'd like to add, Christina, is, part of the mental health journey, I think, is our ability and our capacity to regulate ourselves. Our nervous systems are kind of just, depending on how we treat ourselves, are either go, 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 and we're always kind of in this kind of survival mode, and when we do that, we can kind of lose track of ourselves, When we learn to regulate ourselves, whether that's through therapy and other things I just mentioned, we can always remain present. We can always come back to this moment. We can always remember the things we can control and the things we can't control. I think oftentimes us realtors, we want to try to control everything, but there's so many unpredictable things that happen, right? And that's when we kind of get overstressed. Anxiety can creep in, and we can't really show up the way we want. So that's how I answer that question.
Excellent. You keep mentioning showing up the way you want, or showing up for that day. And I think that's, again, because some people can, and there's actually a question about burnout that I'm going to get to in just a second, but I think people can get to that point and feel like they're trying to show up, but maybe not showing up to the best of their ability. I wanted to just go a little deeper on something that you mentioned. You suggested setting those boundaries with the client or customer, on this day, at this time of the week, this is not, I'm not available, or maybe I'm doing things with my family, whatever it is. For somebody who's really just never set those boundaries before with clients, maybe they jumped into real estate and it's been go, go, go ever since. How do you, maybe I'm not asking you to script them, but maybe just how do you start that conversation, or maybe even create those boundaries within your mind and then verbalize that to a client or customer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it depends on the person, and what we're comfortable with. I think when we first come in as realtors or real estate professionals, we just want to serve, right? We just want to get in there and be fully available and like over deliver. And we have this kind of hustle about us, and we want to make sure our clients are taken care of. I'll say this, and I've noticed this for a lot of folks that I've worked with, including myself, and that's we don't know what the right boundaries are until we kind of stretch ourselves. We kind of overextend ourselves, then we know what our limits are. And then once we recognize what they are, we can kind of calibrate it back, right, to an optimal level. And I think that's always a dance, because we're always changing as people. We're growing, and we can take on more, or we're young and we're still figuring things out. I would kind of encourage people to kind of push yourself to see where your limits are. And then but always have in the back of your mind to look out for what they are. And then when you notice like, wow, this is kind of, I'm at my limit here, I can't overextend, then you kind of play with it, experiment to see like what a good level of what you're able to provide each day for clients and things of that nature. And how would I recommend to people that are new at this? You just got to try, experiment and see what works for you. Everyone's different, Some people need more boundary time. They need more time to themselves. Some people can offer more. Just depends on where we are in our careers and what our needs are, what our lives are demanding of us. So I guess that's how I answer that question.
Yeah. There was a comment that just came in from Lydia. My problem is that I always want to answer my clients' questions right away.
Yeah, yeah, I've been down that road myself,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Just a comment here from Dan King. He said, I set an alarm to go off on my phone at 11:11 every day to remind myself, no matter how stressful the day is, to take a breath and focus on gratitude. Uh,
Mm,
that's great, Dan. I love that you're doing that.
love that.
Very good. Okay, there was a question that came in about burnout. What are some of the symptoms of burnout?
Yeah, I think some of the symptoms is maybe it's hard to feel refreshed. Like you wake up from a good night's sleep, and or you've slept this 7 8 hours, you wake up and you're still not quite there, and that's happened over an extended period of time. That's one indication of burnout. Maybe it's harder to regulate your emotions. Maybe you're a little feeling on edge and things set you off or trigger you that normally otherwise wouldn't, right? We're less emotionally resilient when we're burnt out. We have an emotional system wired into our nervous systems, and that system needs to be honored and replenished each and every day. Otherwise, we run the risk of it, yeah, kind of getting frayed or burnt out, and we're less able I keep saying this, but less able to show up the way we want. There are things that we haven't done to keep our systems in check. I like to think about it this way, Christina. I like to think about our mental and emotional systems as almost like a car, just the way like a car needs to be maintained regularly, get its oil change, tires rotation, etc. We need to take care of ourselves in the same way and make sure that we're checking in so that it maintains and has the best chance in the long run to sustain itself and operate and like function smoothly. So I guess that's how I'd answer that question.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. Thank you so much. We've talked a little bit about change, but I want to dive a little deeper into change because, as we know, there's been a lot of change in not just the world, but specifically the real estate industry. What do you recommend to people who may find it difficult to adapt to change, whether that change be a sudden change or an expected change that you know to anticipate, but maybe you're just not ready to deal with it?
Yeah, one practice that I like to offer, people I work with and also myself that I have to remind myself too, because I get caught up in the world when things change, is to always have a sense for the things you can control and the things you can't. I think sometimes when we feel like we got to control everything that's happening, this has to happen this way. It's all or nothing, this situation, or like something happens when you're trying to do a deal and it's out of your control and it kind of falls apart, and then we're kind of scrambling and we're feeling triggered by it, things of that nature. I think it's super important to remember, you know what, in this situation I've done all that I could, and there are things that are outside my control. I can't control those things, and that's okay. And I can take a deep breath and recognize and acknowledge the work I've put in that I could do, and to give myself the best chance to be successful. And when we're more aware of the things that distinction, the things we can control and can't, I think that helps regulate our nervous systems better in that sense. So
Very good. And hopefully that serves as some good advice. We actually had a question that came in from Zach. Once triggered, what are the best steps to get untriggered or to unload that gun? So is there anything else that you'd offer there for
yeah.
Zach?
Yeah, I mean, each person's different. So, whenever I work with people, I always offer kind of like a buffet of things to try, right? And then we experiment with each one and see, well, what works best. What helps a lot of folks are breathing techniques. There is what's called the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest when we're kind of just relaxing, right? The sympathetic nervous system is kind of fight or flight. We're more activated and kind of ready to take action. So when we're noticed or a little more activated, some breathing techniques I found helpful that activate the parasympathetic nervous system. One that helps, and there's different patterns, but one that helps for me is like breathing in for 3 seconds, holding for 1 second, and then breathing out for 6 seconds. So it'd be something like 1, 2, 3. So we elongate the exhale, double the inhale time, and that kind of, you do that for 5 or 6 cycles for like a minute or two, you'll just notice things just kind of calm down. That's a good place to start, I would think, to when you're triggered. And then, like I said, if you can talk it out with people that you trust, go on a walk, go on a jog, do a workout, things like that, journal and reflect. These things are also helpful as well. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I just realized that as you were doing that I can discreetly do that breath work even while I'm doing this show if I needed to. Very good. All right. Just wanted to share a couple comments that have been coming in. Several people were loving the advice about recognizing what you can control and cannot control. Teresa Hill says, great advice. Some things are truly out of our control. And I saw a few comments like that. One comment that I wanted to highlight as well, Crystal, who works in our professional development department, just shared a link to an upcoming class that we're offering on burnout specifically. So you could check out that link there if you are interested in signing up for that upcoming class. And then we've got some people sharing some comments about breathing and breath work. So love that. And somebody said, I like that tip. I will try that today. So very good. So let's talk about, again, feeling overwhelmed. We've talked about burnout, but sometimes you just feel overwhelmed, right? To anyone feeling overwhelmed right now, what's maybe one thing or two things that they could do to just feel better?
Yeah. I truly believe this. I think in the long run, because there are things you can do in the moment and attend to it immediately, right? When we're feeling overwhelmed, like that breath work is something that we can do, or just kind of clearing your head, going on a walk, or writing about it, reading, things of this nature. But I think in the long run, Christina, what's helpful for a lot of folks that I work with is trying to find daily routines that support your well-being, physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual. I think that's a must if we want to sustain a high level of performance in the long run throughout the course of our career without burning out. And I think that's how we grow and mature and become stronger, more resilient. When we have routines that we do, like I said, I like to do morning and evening routines. They kind of raise and elevate our baseline level of living. Maybe we're operating at a certain level right now where there's things that still kind of trigger us, or things that overwhelm us, or things that get us anxious. When we start working on ourselves and looking within and building our nervous systems up, we kind of raise our baseline level of operating. And so things bother us less. Things that used to trigger us no longer do. We're just, maybe there's some wisdom that was gained from that. So I would say, dealing with overwhelm and things of that nature is kind of a long-term game. There's always short-term fixes, but if we want to be strong in the long run, these daily routines, I think, are crucial.
Very good. What about adding hobbies to those daily routines? We had a comment from Monique. Gardening is really great as well, she said.
Absolutely. Working with our hands, working with things that we're touching, tactile things, sensory experience, being out in nature, getting sunlight every day, maybe going in the pool if you have access, go for a swim. Things that involve our body, I think is super helpful, our sensory experience, because we're in our heads a lot, right? Mm-hmm. We live in a digital world. We're constantly bombarded by messages and texts and social media and videos. It's nonstop. And we weren't designed, I don't think, to handle this type of information coming in. Mm-hmm. We're kind of guinea pigs to this new digital era, and we're figuring out how to make this work. So, I think figuring out ways to have a healthy relationship with your phone is also, super important as well.
Yeah. That makes sense. Very good. To any parents or caretakers that are tuned into this program, what are some ways that we can help those children or people that we're caring for in our lives? Help them, I guess, with their mental health?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing that I truly believe in when it comes to mental health and helping others, right, in their mental health journey, firstly, they have to acknowledge that they want to get better at it, or there's a problem, right? If they don't even see that they have an issue, and then you try to force it on them, they're going to resist even harder, right? So one of my favorite psychotherapists, his name is Carl Rogers, he said that, for change to take place in a therapeutic relationship or people that you love, the first step is that person needs to want to change. right? So maybe talking about it. Hey, like I'm noticing that, maybe you're feeling down these days, or I'm noticing that you're feeling XYZ, whatever it is. Like, is that what's going on here? Like, and if it is, like, we can talk about it. Like inviting them into a conversation about it is a good way. Another, I think, a good way to help and support others is kind of modeling yourself, like a healthy relationship with yourself in mental health. If you're doing the work yourself, the inner work, and your mental health is where it needs to be, that it has an impact on others. I like to say this, Christina, like if you change yourself and you work on yourself and you show up as your best self every day, you're not only changing yourself, you're changing the people around you, because your interactions with others are changed for the better. So we make an impact and influence others in that way. So
excellent. Thank you. Well, this you've shared so many great tips and advice. I know people are working on their breath work as we speak. Are there any resources that you would like to recommend to our members or their loved ones?
Yeah, I mean, there's some books I could recommend. There's a book called, for those, we're all have different situations and challenges as individuals. Some may be going through anxiety, some may be going through stress, some may be going through, depression, whatever it is, right? But I got a couple of books here that can help out, or burnout. There's a book called Rewire Your Anxious Brain by Nick Trenton. That's a great book. The techniques that I like to use are based in DBT or CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. They have fantastic ways to get you out from a triggered state to back to kind of one that's centered and more available to attend to what's going on. So cognitive behavioral therapy, simple techniques to be instantly happier and find inner peace and improve your life by Olivia Telford is a fantastic resource. Burnout by Amelia Nagoski is also fantastic for those that are struggling with that. And Setting Boundaries to Find Inner Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab is also a good one. So I would throw those out there for resources.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we did share all of those titles and authors in the comments. So if you missed any one of those, you should see a comment from HAR.com with that list of authors and titles. And we did share, I think some of people were looking for the link for that class. We did share the link to the class as well, that if people were interested in it. Well, again, Brian, this has been wonderful. I can tell from the comments our members have really enjoyed this. Is there anything else that you didn't get to share yet that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I'll say this. Mental health work is not fun. It's not meant to be fun because you're going in and you're looking inside and you're really being honest with yourself. You're confronting your fears. You're confronting your pains, maybe things you're holding on to in the past, maybe trauma, right? It's not fun because you're going to feel uncomfortable all the time and you have to be brutally honest with yourself. But it's rewarding because if you can get to that place where you're more vulnerable and honest, like a more authentic version of yourself, like comes to take its place, you can show up in the way that you want and you come out of it with greater self-awareness about who you are, what you're capable of, and what you can handle, and kind of going through the daily stresses of life in a way that you can. So my encouragement is to dive in because you're never going to regret it, and to go in with an open heart about it because you'll learn things you never knew you about yourself that you never knew. So I would end like that.
Well, thank you. Wonderful advice today. We've got our members thanking you in the comments and truly appreciate it. Again, even the stuff about breath work, I proved it on this show. I was doing my breath work and I bet nobody even noticed. Well, very good. So next Monday, I do want to mention is Veterans Day. And of course, many of our members assist veteran clients on a daily basis. So we are going to have CJ Johnson from VA Rep on next Monday to talk about what is going on in the veteran space right now and better ways that we can all assist veteran clients and customers. So be sure to tune in for that. Again, Brian, thank you so much for your time today. This was really helpful.
Thanks for having me, Christina. Appreciate it.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.